Hello and welcome to this faction summary of Irsu in Total War Pharaoh. Irsu's destructive Canaanite faction sees no glory in unity and harmony. Some people, as the saying goes, just want to watch the world burn. Irsu strives to bring Egypt to its knees. He is set on plundering the gold mines, defacing the Valley of Kings and then finding his next conquest. He's a fatalist, albeit one who strongly believes that he himself is fated to bring about the end of Egypt's reign. To achieve his goals, he seeks to profit from everyone else's misfortune, and to him, civil war is his greatest opportunity yet. With no interest in monuments or legacy, Irsu's vision of glory is the ruin of Egypt, and all who would rule in its place. The playstyle goes sacking and plundering, with vast profits from battle and with little land ownership, and resources dry up if he stops fighting. Regarding unique units, we find tough, heavy units, strong armor, and fast recruitment, starting off with the Habshu Clubmen, Habshu Warriors, Canaanite Bowmen, Sabu Nagib Spearmen, Sabu Nagib Swordsmen, Sabu Nagib Warriors, Canaanite Chariots, Sabu Nagib Chargers, Henku God, Henku Warriors, Marianu of the King, and finally Marianu's Chariots. For Irsu's faction buildings, we find the Forced Labor Compound, workforce growth +3 to the province, and it also adds +75 to food from the source buildings, and production all resources +50% to the region at the cost of -3 to happiness. Then we have the Irsu Gold Tally Quarters, which grants +2 to legitimacy, +5 to happiness in the province, +5 to influence in the province, and production all resources +30% in the province. Building limit 1 building of this type per faction allowed. And finally we find the Irsu War Camp. Recruitment slots +2 in the province where it's built, and recruitment rank +2 to the own armies in the province for all units. Battle loot +10% faction-wide, and raiding income +10% faction-wide. Reaching the faction summary screen with the strength and weakness unique to the faction as well as the key concepts, we start off with the faction buildings. On the plus side here we find quick resource gain, more battle loot, but the downside here is the resource buildings cannot be upgraded. For the faction units, they are well armored, great in melee, but slow and vulnerable to the terrain. For the commands, we find decreased civilization state and more income from raiding stands and sacking. And in the court we have free regard on the Shemsu Hor, and suggested position is Egyptian First Commander or Hittite High Commander. For the outpost as Irsu, you start with no outpost, however in your province you can conquer the following. Sedat has a Shrine of Moloch, which increases the defense of newly recruited units. Pray there to increase the respective army's morale. And Damascus has a trading port which increases resource production. Trade there to reduce the respective army's upkeep for a few turns. For the native units as Irsu, you start in Retienu, which has a shared native unit roster with Sinai. It has 2 main tribes of units. The Shasu, though low tier, they are well-rounded warriors, cheap to hire and maintain. Use them to protect your stronger units from being flanked. And the Habiro have many units that can deploy close to the enemy line, hide them in the forest or tall grass, then use them for a surprise attack. For the titles as Irsu, your titles reduce your faction's happiness in exchange for various bonuses. Your armies can cause fear in enemy units and you gain more loot from winning battles, especially sieges. Moving on to Canaanite, as Irsu you start in Retienu and own no sacred lands, but you gain a higher amount of legitimacy from winning battles than no other faction. As Irsu, your starting equipment is a heavy armor, a spear, and a medium shield. Deploy your bodyguards units in the front and crush your enemies yourself. Regarding terrain and weather, in Canaan rain tends to be more common than either in Egypt or Anatolia. It makes ranged combat more difficult, so in turn Canaanite units are better at melee, with some of them being capable of vanguard deployment. Their armor is either medium or heavy, which protects them well, but weighs them down in warmer weather or muddy terrain. Worship Moloch. As Irsu, prayers to all Canaanite gods have a longer duration. Shrines of Moloch improve defense for newly recruited units and increase workforce for their province. Use them to recruit better defensive units. Prayers to Moloch increase the morale for the respective army units. The devoted general's army has more melee attack and deals more melee damage. That's it for this quick faction summary, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to leave that like and subscribe for more Total War content. See you in the next one.
Canaan is a wild and savage place, filled with the lost and helpless, begging for Egypt's succor. Instead, Egypt's trade suffers raiding and rebellion at the hands of sadistic warlords, eager to spit on my kindness. Now I hear rumor of one more brutal than any other, a rising threat by the name of Irsu. It is said he thrives on disorder and thirsts only for battle. Instead of letting him sack and pillage the southern Canaanite towns that bring him closer to Egypt, perhaps such a beast could be tamed and directed towards the lands of Hatti to the north. He cannot be allowed to gain too much power, for his whims may bring him to the heart of Egypt to wreak ravage and ruin upon my throne.